Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. We have two special guests today, Leonard Corneli and Will Crespo, both retired North Las Vegas lieutenant, to discuss how the city of North Las Vegas has refused to pay injured police and veterans, the military veterans. So that's going to be a very interesting show. But before we get to our guests, Jim, rants?
Yeah, I'll make it quick.
How many rants you got? You got a whole clipboard.
Well, I'll sum it up quick because I want to get to our guests. I'm probably not going to be the most popular guy after this rant, but whatever.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so first off, I think it's interesting what happened in this last election cycle. Thank goodness it's over. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, like, you know me, I love politics. I'm a junkie, but I'm glad it's over. Well, first off, a couple things about the Republican Party. Okay, number one, I guess Amy Tarkanian is the most powerful person in the state of Nevada because she's the reason why Republicans did not do as well in this election as they should have.
Two shots, penny drop. Right. That's all I'm saying.
And then,
right on, true.
So the number one criticism is the Republican Party doesn't recruit good candidates. So I'm not exactly sure what that means. Like, who has the authority to tell somebody if they can or cannot run for office? And then, look, 10 plus years, he's willing to come on the show. Consider him a friend. State Party Chair Mike McDonald. Keep losing elections, man. At some point, you got to stop blaming other people and think, you know.
But he did get the governor's mansion.
Yeah, well, like you say, he's a friend. I'm not,
Can I ask you a question? What about Adam Laxalt? You don't think that was a bad choice? I mean, he's like Mr. Second Place.
Yeah.
He comes in second in like every election. So why would they think that he was going to do any better in this election?
It wasn't about what he could do. It was
votes.
about money that he could raise, and that's what it was about.
But he can't. He's never pulled votes. He doesn't have a history of pulling enough votes.
So, I mean, my thing is it's not about money. At some point, it's whether you win elections or not. Yeah. And then, I mean, honestly, and I'm just going to leave it at this, I think it's time for the Republican Party in the state of Nevada to really consider electing another state party chair.
Oh, that's my boy, though.
He's my boy,
Yeah,
too.
he's a good guy. I like him.
No, I love Mike McDonald as a
That's
person.
my boy.
I'm just saying, but you can't lose
He's a
elections.
former LVMPD, and you got Northtown PD right here.
That's fine, but if you keep losing elections, at some point,
But he did get the governor's mansion and the lieutenant governor's mansion, but I know Stavros worked his ass off.
But who are but what's the most important branch of government in your opinion? The legislature. Okay? You couldn't pull out one Republican assembly race, not one Nevada state Senate race.
Well, unless you're Richard McCarthy because you ran unopposed.
You can't win, though. I could go into statistics, but so and you have a president that, depending on polls, 43% approval rating, some have them at 47. Highest inflation rate, second highest in the entire country. And somehow the Democrats were able to switch the whole argument over to abortion.
I know. But listen here, when it comes to Michael McDonald, I've known him for many, many years, and we don't agree on everything, but I don't agree on everything with everybody anyway. But I think that with what he had, the tools that he has, he's done a really good job.
Who would have been better than Adam Laxalt for that congressional district?
They were talking about, I'm not going to mention.
Oh, for Senate? Well, that's the thing. I'm not the state party chair. That's not up to me to decide.
But he was the only name that was kind of known. There's nobody that was more known
Brown?
than him.
Sam Brown?
Yeah, it's not very well known.
All right, so I'll just leave it at this. Me personally, and I would like Mike to come on. I'm sure he's probably really upset because we are friends. I'm not calling him out as a person.
Call him up.
But I'm just saying, like, you have to start winning elections at some freaking point, right? So I think we need a new state party chair, and I actually have someone in mind.
All right.
Paul Jackson.
Paul Jackson. Yeah, Paul.
All right.
I don't think Paul Jackson is going to go against Michael McDonald.
So Steve, you and I will agree to disagree on this one.
But I just want to say that this program was brought to us by Ron Quince. Ron Quince has sponsored this program. And you know what? Before we get to our guests, we have a few birthdays, friends of ours. The county party chairman, Jesse Law, today's his birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. We got Claudia Thomas, who's the mother to Melanie Thomas, the attorney. We got Jennifer Barrier.
Yeah.
And my favorite with Stephanie Phillips, her daughter, Victoria. Happy birthday.
Nice.
So there we got that done and over with. So let's move on. So, Leonard, start with you first. Tell us about yourself.
I work for the city of North Las Vegas as a police officer, and I retired last year after 25 years of service as a police lieutenant. I'm the president of a local fraternity order of police, FOP lodge, and I'm here today to support my friend Will Crespo.
Okay. Will, tell us about you.
Well, I'm an Air Force veteran. I got stationed here at
Aim high, baby.
at Nellis. I got stationed in Nellis back in 1985. Fell in love with the city then and decided to stay here. And I was honorably discharged in 1989. And shortly after that, the early part of 90, I became a police officer with the city of North Las Vegas and retired in 2015 with the rank of lieutenant.
Yeah. Congratulations to both of you.
He said it a lot better than I did.
You both came out as an officer, right? I mean that's not it. That's not an easy task to become a lieutenant in any police force.
Exactly.
And you got to take all those tests, right? And you got to be sergeant before you become a lieutenant, right?
Yes.
Well, there's only 10 lieutenants for the entire department at any one time.
Yeah. And then you guys are both on the police officer supervisory board, the
Yes.
union.
Yeah, I was a president. Actually, we co-founded the North Las Vegas Police Supervisors Association.
Yeah.
It used to be one combined union,
Right.
and in 2010 we went off on our own and started it from the ground up.
Yeah. And how many members did you guys leave behind?
About 61 when we started.
Okay. Okay.
I don't recall how many there were when we left.
What was the dues
65 per paycheck.
per paycheck?
Per paycheck.
So some people have, was it 2-3 paychecks a month?
Sometimes there's usually
$65 each.
in some years there's a 3 paycheck month once in the year and sometimes twice.
By 12, what's the average?
Well, there's 26 there's every 2 weeks, so 26 paychecks a year.
They're racking up. We need to do something like that.
We had a lot of legal bills. The city, fought us on everything. They tried to take away our rights. They tried to take away our contract. They tried to cut our pay, and very anti-union
Let me ask
mayor
you
and
something.
city council.
You guys have an oath to sworn protect, right?
Yes.
Why would a municipality such as North Las Vegas want to, dishonor the men and women in blue? Wouldn't they want to put them on a pedestal a little bit?
They only care about. I was having a conversation as union president once with the management there, coming up on negotiations, and we had the one guy retired because he got ill, and I was trying to talk about it. I think it was a lieutenant or a sergeant, and all they wanted to know was what was his pay and benefits. That's all they wanted to know. They didn't even know his name. I asked them 10 minutes later, like, you remember his name? They're like, no, we don't. They don't care. It's just money. We're just numbers, and that's why we're here to talk about Will Crespo, because they just marginalize people. They make excuses. They ignore them. The plan is always to delay, to deflect, to defend, delay, ask for a motion to stay, and just let years go by. And a lot of people give up. It takes a lot of stamina, emotional,
Either they
mental
pass
stamina.
away or they just give up. Or
Well,
move
that's
away.
best case scenario, that they die. Will has a heart condition. That's the best case scenario. He passes away, and then something goes to the family, but nobody in our families are going to fight like he and I. Not for our family. We're the ones in the front. We're the ones trying to fight to get. Will's asking for a claim that is allowed by NRS, under Heart and Lung, because Heart and Lung says that if you're a police officer or a fireman and you have a heart or a lung condition during your employment, that it's a legal presumption that it's because you were a policeman or a fireman. So as a first responder, they've created this benefit to pay your medical bills and claims. And so because they have that, you apply for it. Will had to have 2 stents put in an emergency situation. He has a heart issue, and they just don't want to pay. It's really a refusal
let me
to
stop
pay.
you right there. Why does the city of North Las Vegas always putting obstacles in front of police officers? For example, the 218 retirement that you guys were fighting over a while back.
Because they have powerful people. A lot of
and that was to give you guys. It was part of the.
It's the right to
Patriot
carry.
Act, right?
Yeah.
To give you guys the right to carry in every state.
In 2004, George Bush created the. It was an HR 218 was the name of the bill.
Right.
It's a law enforcement officer safety act, and we were having problems with terrorism and active shooters. And as a president, he thought it might be a good idea when the police retire, if they retire honorably in good standing, to be able to carry concealed in any state, all 50 states at any time.
Or territories.
Because they have the training. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't train enough people to fight terrorists and active shooters. So his thinking was, if you have police officers that can be in the neighborhood or happen to be there, you're picking your child up at school and somebody goes in there as an active shooter and you're a retired police officer, but you're carrying because you're allowed to, you could engage if you so choose.
Right.
And so they give this power to the police chiefs and the assistant chiefs and the city councils and the county commission to, they believe they can just deny it when case law says they can't deny it. And you have to have a substantial reason for keeping it. But it's just a way to show people that they didn't like or were not popular, or like myself, that raised an eyebrow at some of their practices and pushed back through the union and filed grievances and lawsuits and as a parting gift, so to speak, a kick in the butt, on the way out the door, they deny you and make you fight for it.
Before we get into Will's case, one thing that just really I find interesting is how the city of North Las Vegas always throws an obstacle in front of the North Las Vegas police officers. Why do they continue to fight the North Las Vegas police officers by not giving them their benefits that they duly deserve? They
don't think they deserve them. They do not believe.
But wouldn't you want to protect those that are protecting you?
Well, let me ask you this. If
I had a bodyguard, right, I'm going to treat that bodyguard real nice, because that bodyguard, if something goes down, he's my first line of defense. He's going to jump in front of, jump in front of that bullet. He's going to try to save my life, right? So I'm going to treat that person with the highest respect and give him or her the benefits that they duly deserve. But it seems like North Las Vegas municipality, especially their legislative, their executive branch, is always in the way of police officers, and that includes the city council, the mayor's office, the city attorney, the city manager's office. Why are they constantly in your guys' way?
HR, risk management, you might as well throw
why?
them in.
What do they have? Apparently they must be discriminatory against police officers.
Because they can.
Well, I had a former city manager who left under fighting circumstances, and she told me in a meeting, Dr. Lou.
Okay.
She told me in a meeting that the city just does not like police supervisors. She told me to my face, and I said, "Why is that?" And they said, because of your contract and you're paying benefits. And of course, at the time, I was a powerful union president, so they weren't gaining any ground against us, and that people just didn't like us. And I said to her, let me ask you something. I said, if you ask the average American and you say, what kind of people don't like police? What would they say?
Criminals.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what most Americans would say when you say, I don't like the police, and I especially don't like the police supervisors. And she meant the whole city. She told me, everyone in the city does not like you guys. It's because we hold people accountable, and there's laws. And as a union president, I was holding them accountable to the contract and to what they agreed to pay us and the rights that the NRS gives us. And they just came after me with everything they had. And Will also, he was the vice president, and they just come after your career and try to make life miserable, and they did.
But as long as I've known you, how long has it been?
Let's see,
How
2009-ish.
long are you willing to admit to?
2009-ish, I think it was.
So what, 19, 20?
14, yeah, 13, 14 years.
You've been in the newspapers fighting for police officers' rights for North Las Vegas. But every time I read a story that you're involved in, I always ask myself, why? Why does this man out there have to fight for something that should have been just given? Why does he have to fight?
You want to know why? You want to know why? Because the elected officials who are elected to hold people accountable and to make them follow the rules and the laws won't do it. And because
They don't have no balls.
the agencies
They don't have no balls.
the agencies that were designed to fight and to make sure they're held accountable and follow the laws and the procedures won't do it. No one will. We filed lawsuits, we filed grievances, we've talked to everyone whose job. There's people in North Las Vegas, politicians who've been elected by tens of thousands of people. And if you're elected by tens of thousands of people and you know that they have a multitude of discrimination lawsuits, okay, existing, and you know for a fact that they're existing, but everyone just makes excuses and says, well, we're going to have that conversation. We're certainly going to have a meeting about it. That doesn't do anything. It's like the parents of the kids that were killed in the active shooter. People were coming out saying, we're giving you our thoughts and prayers. They're like, we don't want your thoughts and prayers anymore. Well, we want some action.
Right. When you mention discriminatory lawsuit, are you saying that the executive branch of North Las Vegas is discriminating against what? Black officers,
Mostly,
brown officers, yellow officers, what?
I'm aware of several black minorities that are currently exist right now, and they do the same thing. They file motions and they file stays, and they say it's not true, and they take their time with depositions and interrogatories, and they stall and they stall and they stall. And now it's years, and it's costing the people who had to leave or are currently employed and were discriminated against. It costing them a fortune.
So you're
tens of thousands of dollars.
You're saying that the city of North Las Vegas trying to push minority officers out?
In certain
or
cases.
make it hard for them to get their benefits than they would their white counterparts?
I absolutely am saying that. And I filed an EEOC complaint myself, and the EEOC is a mess.
You are a white officer, correct?
I'm Italian. I don't consider myself white. I'm just being honest. I'm not.
Why would you want to fight so hard for the minorities in the police force?
Because even though I'm not a black minority, and I can never relate to exactly what it feels like to be discriminated against simply because of the color of your skin. Something you can't do anything about. You can't do anything about if you're born Puerto Rican or Afro-American, or if you're born Asian. You can't do that. So to be discriminated against for something you can't do anything about must be something that keeps people up at night. But there is a, this is Nevada, and like you said, some people might they may not like to hear this, but it's still a good old boy system in Nevada. And so if those lawsuits exist, and the agencies and the politicians and all the powerful people who are appointed and elected to hold them accountable and to make sure discrimination doesn't occur are not willing to do anything, then what do you do next, Steve? I have someone like me, somebody like Will. He files complaints. He went to ACLU. He can't even get a call back from ACLU. Why is that? He's called several times and left messages. Why can't he get a call back, at least a call back from ACLU?
I'm going to go to Will now. So, Mr.
Well,
Crespo.
hold on. I got something I need to say real quick. Okay, so just in general, one thing I've noticed, basically, not only just on the national level, but the local level, is this argument about unions. Like that is something that a lot of people, we got this culture now that like you have people that are like anti-union, period. They're always going to be anti-union or super hardcore pro-union. One of the things that has always kind of frustrated me is I don't understand why you should be able to unionize in the public sector. Because, and hear me out, I'm not attacking unions. I'm just, and since you were a union president, like, weren't you the one that had to help form a union? Because the government and the city of North Las Vegas wasn't holding up their end of the bargain?
Well, let me ask you this back.
Yeah.
If you don't have a collective bargaining agreement, which is why we created unions, it's basically an employment contract.
Yeah, right.
It has your pay, your benefits, it has your rights, it has grievance procedures. And keep in mind, in this state, we gave up the right to strike for the grievance procedure.
Right, correct.
So it's illegal to strike in this state because, so if they control the grievance procedure, the arbitration, and they don't process your grievances, which they don't, then you're screwed. So let me ask you this, if you don't have a union, who's going to set the pay and benefits for those officers and supervisors?
Right.
Who would, no. And who would do it? Who would set it? Literally, who would set it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The city and that municipality should. So, like, I'm not attacking unions. I'm saying
I'm fine with it.
Unions shouldn't even be necessarily in the public sector.
Wow.
In my opinion.
So if the city sets the pay and benefits, they're going to pay you minimum wage as a police officer.
But
so
if you can't strike, then isn't that really cutting out a huge bargaining chip for collective bargaining?
Yeah.
On top of the fact that, now, correct me if I'm wrong, because as a union president, you know more about this than me. I've been told that if you were under a collective bargaining agreement, federal labor laws do not apply.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So they have the national labor laws. That's where you complain.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So we cannot file complaints with the National Labor Association.
Okay.
We cannot.
Right.
However, if we have a complaint that's similar to their labor issue, we can use that case law. So in this state,
makes sense.
In this state, you have to go through the grievance process and end up in arbitration. But the state of Nevada is a good example. For years, they set the pay for their correction officers and for their highway patrol. The state set the pay. You have to wait till the legislature to get a raise or change your pay and benefits. Did you know that? Yep. You have to actually wait for them to vote on it. So now they have collective bargaining for state employees, but it's not going well. So the state, whenever they have to give the state troopers a raise, for instance, they're going to say no. They're going to say we can't afford it, and they're undermanned right now, and they don't get enough pay, and they're fighting the union that represents them. So what I'm saying to you is, in the 1920s, the management used to decide what your benefits and your pay were and your rights. Yeah. Okay, and then they had representatives, but the representative was always picked by management. So what collective bargaining does is it allows us to vote. And then we get to pick who represents us on our pay and benefits. Right. And I know that's kind of the long way around, but without collective bargaining, the city would pay us minimum wage and no benefits and tell us no holidays.
But then you won't have anybody join the force.
Right. Yeah.
That's what's going on now.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened.
So I didn't mean to ask that in depth of a question. I just because I hear all the time, like, people are, and I tell people when they ask me, are you pro-union or anti-union? This is what I always say. Well, depends on the situation.
If you connect the dots and you look at why Highway Patrol was losing so many people.
Right.
So obviously a large portion of that, and they were losing them to local entities like Metro, North Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that they didn't like their job or, didn't believe in what they were doing at NHP. The pay was so low comparatively, because they didn't have collective bargaining for one. So they would, obviously if it's life-changing and it's going to improve your family's quality of life, what are you going to choose? So I know a lot of them made tough decisions when they had to leave. Yeah. And when that happens, now the attention goes on to that, let's say the NHP or at the state level, where they're thinking, well, we're losing too many people through attrition. They're quitting, they're leaving. Right. We're not getting enough people. What do we need to do? Do we need to be more competitive when it comes to wages? And that's what they end up doing. But that's the long way to increasing your wages, because by that time, what have you done to those officers or those troopers that are not making the wages that they should be getting. So I believe in collective bargaining gets you there quicker.
Right, exactly, because by the time that system without collective bargaining catches up, you've already fallen so far behind by cost of living increases and everything else.
Collective bargaining is an employment contract. The city attorney has an employment contract. The city manager has an employment contract. The assistant city attorney, the HR director, the risk management director. So how is that any different? Because it's not considered a collective bargaining agreement. And to your point, why City of North Las Vegas? We have an employment contract and they still refuse to pay it. They still tried to get out of paying it. I've sat down with
but I'm still
city
I'm still in the same mindset. But why? Why are you going to go after the very people that's supposed to protect you?
They don't like police.
Well, let me take. Well, let's. I guess that's a segue.
Before we go into you, Mr. Crespo, there was a few years ago. North Las Vegas had billboards up and says, "We don't guarantee your safety."
Yeah.
What was that about?
That was okay. So they have. I'm going to try to keep it as simple.
What was it? Did they guarantee the safety before the billboard became present?
A tax override. It adds taxes to what you pay in your property taxes in a city,
right?
And they raised them. But they raised them with the premise that you would get more police. It was called Safe Streets 2000. And there was a public safety tax. And so the people vote for it because you say, hey, do you guys want more police? And everybody's like, yeah, we want more police and more police equipment. So they got the money, but they didn't hire the officers.
Okay.
And they didn't use the money for police equipment. And it was going out the back door to every other project.
It's like the marijuana tax.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like the Clark County School District to me.
Well, the union got mad at the time. It was the officers' union. It wasn't the supervisors. They got mad because they're like, hey, we helped you because if the police officers back something and the union backs something and goes door to door and says, hey, they say, hey, the police union is behind this. You guys need to vote for this. Oh, okay, if the police say it's okay, well, they did. They used their political power to get it passed. And then we couldn't get them to hire anybody. And we were like, where's the money? So they did audits and try to get to the money. And it was... it got very shady from there. So that's why the Police Officers Association put up billboards saying, we can't guarantee your safety because they won't give us police equipment. They won't give us police officers. And you guys are paying tens of millions a year in extra property taxes. North Las Vegas, I think they're maxed out on their property taxes. Like they literally can't charge you by law any more than they are. So where's all the money?
Okay. Yeah. Maybe they're giving it to the city manager.
I heard he just got another raise. Last week, they voted on a new raise for him and the city attorney, and the contract, if they leave for any reason, the city has to pay the entire contract out, and it's like $700,000 or $800,000.
Kind of sounds like the superintendent's contract for Clark County.
Jara and him must have the same attorney.
Well, in Nevada, the thinking is you can do whatever you have to do.
Right.
I thought this was a right to work state. Did I miss something?
Well, yeah, you got, right to work means that you can't force someone to be in a union. But if the city attorney and the city manager, they don't believe in collective bargaining and they hate employment contracts, why do they have employment contracts?
How much does the city manager make in North Las Vegas?
Last I looked, he was at, it was in the high 200s. And I don't remember if it quite gets to 300, but it was something like 24,000 a month, but that's not including benefits. They get holiday pay and they get what's called personal days.
Wow.
So I was like, what's a personal day?
Personal day, floaters, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a personal day. You can take it off for any reason.
Right.
Now, remember, your annual, your sick pay, your sick leave, your holiday, your personal is all in a bank. Okay, so if they leave for any reason and they don't use those, they get paid that as well, beside their pay. So you're talking about a fortune. So they can literally do whatever they want, whether it's, in my opinion, immoral, unethical.
Do you think that's why they're screwing police officers around so they could get more salary increases?
I think that if your bosses don't like the unions and they don't like the police and you make it life difficult for them, you probably get a raise.
What does the average police officer make in North Las Vegas?
I don't know what they start at now, but last I looked, they were starting right around 56,000. However, what's working nationwide is hiring bonuses. But North Las Vegas and some of they refuse to do it because it's money. But some people are paying you $5,000 to move from another state to your state if you pass the background and everything. Some people are giving you incentives for having education. Some people, one place is giving a $25,000 hiring bonus, and they're not having a tough time hiring cops right now. You know what I'm saying? So they're complaining that they can't get enough applicants and they can't hire police, but at the same time, they're not willing to make it enticing enough for them to want to join.
All right, Mr. Crespo, let's get into your issue with the North Las Vegas city.
My issue?
Yes, sir.
I don't believe it's just my issue. I think it's a statewide issue, actually.
Tell us about it.
My issue is that it took over 2 years, a little over 2 years, just to get my initial claim accepted.
Why did it take so long?
I think they have a system in place where they just automatically delay these things, no matter how serious or how minor or how serious they are. So in my case, which is something serious, and I'm sure in many other people in my position's cases, is serious when it comes to your heart and coronary artery disease or heart disease. Those things are really serious. A person could literally, without being overly dramatic, can pass away at any time.
Did you have these issues prior to being an officer or while you were on duty?
In order for my condition to develop, it is over years.
Okay.
And
you were a cop for 25 years.
And I was a cop for 25 years. So it was over the 25 years of service that I developed this condition.
What caused it? Stress?
The stress, not only the stress of the job itself, which is highly stressful, the call, is those life-threatening situations that we encounter.
That you personally experienced.
Oh, I can name you several. I could go as far as...
I don't know if you're going to beat Randy Sutton. He had a really good one when he
Randy Sutton is good. Randy Sutton is a good guy. And I've known Randy Sutton a long time also. He would be...
Maybe his organization could help you, the Wounded Blue.
I've called him and he will be getting in contact soon. We've already spoken. Okay. In my situation, I go back early in my career into like 92 or 90, 91 when I came out, when we were at the height of the gang problem. I was on the gang unit.
Okay.
We had a high gang area.
You weren't undercover or anything like that?
I did that also.
Oh, well,
You can't say.
what was your gang name? I want to know.
I actually worked undercover narcotics for 5 years also.
Oh, wow.
So that was stressful. There was a guy who, in the middle of my investigation, and I'm undercover with the suspect, he pulled his weapon out in the car when I'm with him, and he racked around in this gun.
That was for you.
Well, who else would it be for? So I'm driving the car. So I look at him and I go, "Wait, what are you doing? What are you doing?" He looks at me. He says to me, "It's not for you. Keep going. Drop me off over here." And then that was it. But later I found out through a confidential informant that he did it to scare me because he felt that I was an undercover cop. And he thought about shooting me. And he told the person, "Yeah, I scared the crap out of that cop. He's lucky I didn't shoot him." But that was just one situation. During the Rodney King riots that we had on the west side and in North Las Vegas, my actual patrol car that I was driving in got hit several times with gunfire during the riots while I was in it. So those are the kind of situations. That's not counting the situations where I got into knockdown drag-outs with drug dealers or gang members with guns. And after we get them into custody, we recover 44 magnums, literally.
Right.
32 Saturday night specials in their pockets. Knives, you name it. Sawed-off shotguns. He and that was early in my career. Now we go to the latter part when I'm about to retire. Cardinale stop a guy. He looks suspicious in front of a convenience store. He ends up having a sawed-off shotgun. Has a criminal history from California of robbing stores. And
He had it hidden in his pants.
He had it hidden in his pants, and we go for pursuit. And thank God, it didn't get it even worse. But he took the weapon out, and that was a close life or death situation. And after we got him into custody, he admitted that he was about to rob the store.
Have you ever discharged your weapon?
Only I was being attacked by a Rottweiler one time, and I still had the gun to my side.
Animal lovers are going to be mad.
Yeah,
But I did-
ASPCA is going to really be upset with
No, they won't. They won't because I did
That story.
because I didn't hit him.
you. Missed.
I missed. I didn't shoot him.
Air Force for you.
I didn't shoot him.
Air
I did not
Force.
shoot the
Thanks for
dog.
the ride.
I did not shoot the dog.
A Marine with a shot.
And so I'm very grateful for that. I did have to discharge my firearm.
You didn't score high on the pistol range, did you?
High enough.
That's how you shoot.
But thank God, I'm glad I didn't hit him, and the discharging of the round.
Where did that
scared him enough,
round
scared
go?
him off. It went into the ground.
Okay.
It went into the ground.
Can I say, to your point, so knowing some of what he's gone through, like you said, why would they deny this guy's benefits? Why? What is the why of it?
And that's why I'm here. I'm frustrated, and I'll be honest with you, Steve. When I contacted you, because this is well over 3 years now that I'm here. So this isn't something that happened overnight, or it was 2 weeks in the making, or I'm impatient and I want special treatment. This is over 3 years now, and you're right. I took an oath twice in my life. You know, not many people could say that they've been in a career that they've had to take an oath to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States. I did it twice. I did
Foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic, and I took it twice, not once. I did it in the military, and that's a cop. And a lot of cops do that. We have a lot of veterans that are police officers, that are first responders, and that have taken that oath. And I hear a lot of people saying thank you for your service when I tell them what I've done, or that I was in the military, that I was in the Air Force, that I was a police officer, and I love it, and I'm grateful that they appreciate what I've done. But I look back when I'm at home and I'm to my thoughts, and I think this is the thanks North Las Vegas gives me for my service.
Well, I mean,
And that's the frustrating part. I'm
I didn't
sorry.
mean
No,
to-
you're
I
fine.
didn't mean-
No,
I
you're
didn't
fine.
mean
No,
to
you're
interrupt
fine.
you.
No, you're fine.
well, and we were talking a little bit before we started taping, and here's the thing that, and you gentlemen correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a pretty typical tactic, and it gets used a lot in the business world too, where if you try to file an EEOC lawsuit against a major corporation or whatever, and you could be completely in the right, number one, the first thing they do is they bury your ass in paperwork, excuse my language, and then they try to give you, then they try to go, oh, well, you know what? You might have a point here. So here, we'll give you 50% of what you're actually entitled to, so you don't have to waste any more time and have to go through
It's amazing.
any more paperwork, and then you just sign off, and then they're good. They just save 50%.
Right, and in my case, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great analogy and great thought on that, because that's almost exactly what happened to me. The medical portion was accepted earlier this year, again, over 2 years later. So you can imagine the stress, the bills that I was getting. I was getting medical bills. I was getting threatened. Hey, this is final notice. Threatened to...
Oh, the medical bills.
The medical bills. You're not paying your medical bills. I'm being told, well, it's supposed to get paid under workers' comp. Don't pay them yet. And I'm not talking about bills that were a few $100s here and there. They were like thousands of dollars.
Same thing with me.
So they're like, my wife is getting these bills. She's stressing. She's talking to me, so it's affecting my life, my quality of life at home. I'm calling my attorneys, and
it's all intentional.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because you're getting all these bills, they're piling up. You have to constantly go get checked. You have a symptom or something, and then you get another bill, and so it's tough for your insurance company to pay because it's supposed to be on the workers' comp.
Right.
So, but workers' comp is not paying it because your claim hasn't been accepted in over 2 years. So now I have
Why is that?
thousands of dollars. I think a lot of it is to stress you out, and I hate to say it, maybe stress you out enough to where you die from the stress.
But don't they have
Or give up.
Or give up.
Or
don't they have a time frame they need to pay that?
They do. The NRS says that if you're a police or fireman and you have a heart or lung claim and it's denied, which his was denied back in 2019, and you appeal, which he appealed a month later, it says that if it's not settled within 6 months, that the Division of Industrial Relations has to initiate an investigation. And I can assure you, because I've been through this myself,
Did they?
I called them 2.5 years later, and they had not started an investigation.
So don't you have ramifications to file a lawsuit against them?
Here's the way it works. In Nevada, you can't directly, we gave up the right to sue the insurer.
But if they violate
For
an
a-
NRS, why can't you sue them on that
You
basis?
can. but we gave up our right to sue the insurer for what they call an exclusive remedy. The exclusive remedy is this process, the workers' comp process. Well, the Division of Industrial Relations is there to make sure it's done correctly and in a timely manner. They do neither. I've been told by multiple attorneys that the Division of Industrial Relations is pro-employer. They don't really like employees. They're appointed people. They've been there for 20 or 25 or 30 years. No one can touch them. And their job is to shuffle paperwork. We have a complaint right here that was filed with Division of Industrial Relations on behalf of Will Crespo. And so the trick is the Nevada Division of Industrial Relations is separate from the appeals division. Okay, so you file a complaint with them, and if they wait 90 days, it's what's called an automatic de facto denial. So they don't really have to deal with it. They just have to wait 90 days. After the 90 days, you know what they do with it? Instead of dealing with it, it's a de facto denial, and you have to appeal the de facto denial. And where does it go? Back to the appeals office. So the appeals office has a hearing on it to decide whether or not you get benefit penalties. So the Division of Industrial Relations never really does anything. They're supposed to hold them accountable. It's the same thing you told me with the judges, where they have a judicial conduct committee to complain. You can only complain to the committee, but the committee will never do anything. So really, in Nevada, it's just it's a cycle, and it's just closed down. Yeah. And but you know what? The politicians are supposed to hold the state agencies accountable.
But they don't.
They do not.
Because they want to get reelected, so they want to keep friends.
And in my case, where I got 50% of the benefits, and we were arguing that I deserved the other portion, which is the monetary portion of the benefits, the argument was that I was retired at the time when I made the claim. And that in the law, it states that if you make the claim when you're retired, you don't get that other half of the benefits, you only get the medical portion. But there's an exception in the law for people like me in my position who have, at the time this exemption was passed, you had to have at least 20 years on the force at the time the exemption was passed, which was in 2015 when it was passed. The exemption says you have to have 20 years on at the time when this law is passed to qualify for the other. Well, I had 25 years on. So I more than
qualified.
They qualified, exactly.
What did they do with that argument?
Well,
they said that's not the way they.
Well, no. The initial was he's right. They say that's not the way they read it, which I don't know what that means. I guess I can use that all the time. I'm gonna have to use that more often.
So some read Ebonics and some don't.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, judges and insurance companies are really good at creative interpretation of the law.
Right.
Well,
it's not even an
discretion.
Well, it's not even an interpretation. It's just a catch-off. That's just not the way we read it. Well, how do you read it? Well, we don't read it your way.
Right.
There's no other explanation.
But there's years, right?
Right.
It's a number thing.
It's a numbers thing. So the thing.
Wouldn't that? I mean, no matter how you read it, if it says over 20 years, right?
Exactly.
2015.
Well, in my case, in my case, when they were making that argument, that's fine and dandy, but when we made the argument why, and they said no, we don't read it that way. We're gonna let the process play out, which they could have just accepted and said, we see the Senate bill that shows that is true, but and here's your benefits. Instead of doing that, they said no, we still believe you don't deserve it. We're gonna let the process play out. We're gonna let it go to a hearing. Okay, so they moved the goalpost. So the goalpost got moved. So it went to a hearing.
Do they deliberately do that so you can hire an attorney?
I think they deliberately do that so they can let the process play out as long as possible till you get worn out, till you die or you get tired.
Is one of your recourse you could ask for attorney's fees and costs?
Yes.
Okay.
So now they moved the goalpost and said let it go to a hearing. So it goes to a hearing, and guess what happens? The hearing judge says
You won.
He's right. He's earned those benefits. Pay him his benefits. So instead of me.
Let me interrupt. She took the time to write out her opinion. Mm-hmm. It's not like she just ruled on it. She wrote her opinion out, and she said, "You are hereby ordered to pay Wilson Crespo. This is my final decision."
So the judge said this.
Yes. So
what's the problem?
The goalpost got moved again.
What does that mean?
They filed a motion.
They filed a motion to stay. They filed a motion to stay, and then they appealed that. I guess basically.
Why are they fighting so hard to give you what you deserve as taxpayers' dollars?
Because they just don't.
And
That's not like it's coming out of their pocket.
But when you talk about taxpayers, how about this? They've been fighting a fight they can't win against him for over 3 years. What does that cost? They have a third-party administrator. They have a third-party attorney. They have their internal attorneys that get paid daily to fight these things. So now they spend 3 years spending a fortune of the public's money.
They could have just paid him and be done.
Well, here's the worst part. They have to pay him anyway because he already won. So they're going to fight for 3 years. And in my opinion, they're self-serving. The attorneys want to fight.
So it's a personal grievance then.
Well, they make money by fighting.
What do you mean?
I mean, the third-party administrator attorney,
Gotcha.
if he incites a fight that he knows he can't win, the city has to use the citizens' money to pay for 3 years for a fight you can't win, then you lose at the end after 3 or 4 or 5 years, and you have to pay anyway.
Well, why don't they sanction the attorney for bringing up these claims that's false that they know they can't win?
He filed a complaint with the Division of Industrial Relations for not, I have the NRS for failure to comply with the judge's order, and they waited 90 days, de facto denial. So now the agency that's supposed to make sure it runs right and in a timely manner
let me stop
punted
you right
it.
If they go against the judge's order, why don't you file an order to show cause to get them locked up?
Well, I don't think you can file an order to show cause on the insurer, but you can on the third party.
Somebody's responsible.
They're saying the third
somebody's
party.
in contempt of court because that's what that is.
That's what I would call
contempt
it.
of court. If a judge gives you an order and you don't follow it and you have no legal basis not to follow it,
Contempt.
It's a contempt of court. How come somebody's not tossed in jail? You see, that's the problem. That's the problem. I think if
But
you
now
start
he
tossing
has to-
people in jail,
But now he has to start.
this won't happen anymore.
But now he has to start paying an attorney to do that. And that's where it gets costly. It's thousands and thousands. You'll get it back, sure enough, but do you want to spend 5 or 10 grand?
It's a David and Goliath fight. You know, if I already have attorneys on one thing, now I got to get attorneys on another thing, then attorneys on another thing, and it's all related to the one case. My pockets aren't that deep. My pockets aren't City of North Las Vegas deep. I don't have.
And it's not their money that they're playing with.
Exactly. I don't have tens of millions. Now, if it was the individual's money, I guarantee you a lot of these would be settled.
Yeah, the people who are saying no.
Yeah, the people.
If it was their money, they would already settled.
Being used. I'm sure they'll say, "Wait, this is affecting my quality of life, and I've got to come out of my pocket to fight these legal battles." Yeah, they have, but those people have tens of millions of taxpayer dollars to fight me. I can't compete against that. My only way I can compete against that is doing what I'm doing now. Having people like you and this show that do care about veterans and first responders to bring it to light. And maybe, I doubt it because they're brutal and ruthless. Maybe that can help a lot of us who are in this position because I'm not the only one.
First responders like they treated.
But I know of many.
What was that?
They're treating first responders like they used to treat veterans. Veterans were the bad guy. They were the people who went overseas and killed people. And they were hated, 60s, 70s. I mean, they had a bad rap. And then they started dying, waiting for treatment, literally in the hospital, in the waiting room. One story, the guy was there 7 times, okay, to try to get treatment, and he died in the waiting room. And it took veterans dying, okay, and then the stories came out. They're like, this guy's been waiting 13 years and been denied, and he's got all these diseases. So now everybody loves.
Story.
Yeah, and everybody loves veterans now, right? But first responders, unfortunately, until something bad happens, no one's going to lift a finger, and the politicians won't do it.
Please continue.
Sorry to interrupt.
No. You guys are fine. No, I think it is all one and the same. My concern is we've earned these benefits. I would never ask, or we would never ask for something that we didn't earn, and that's my frustration when it comes to my situation. And I'm sure there are many other officers, but I can sit here and we can name, and we could have officers from all different departments, and we know of officers that our life expectancy for a while there when you retired was only like 5 years at one time.
55, 56 years old.
Yeah, right. So
Why is that?
because of the job, the stresses of the job.
That's a fact.
So, and I know personally of officers that have retired that after they retired, shortly after, I'm talking about 2 or 3 years after retiring, either passed away or had massive heart attacks. You see what I'm saying?
Does a lot of them go to the bottle after they retire?
Some do. Yes, we know the history with that, behind that. We know that's definitely not after.
During.
During. Yes, not after. During. The job is one of a kind. It's like the veterans who served in the military, and especially during wartime. Those stresses cannot ever be explained or understood by the layman.
Well, you know how they mask it.
And it's the same thing. Layman.
You do know how a lot of veterans mask their PTSD or their stress.
How's that?
Sex, drugs, alcohol, violence.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is,
those are the ones that didn't get help.
well, the thing you're right, and it's hard because for police officers to get help, it's hard for them also. Mm-hmm. There's a stigma behind that. And, this is a negative stigma that comes with going to get help. You're weak. Right. You're supposed to be this tough cop. Yeah, you're supposed to be this tough crime fighter.
I've said that about veterans, too, because I remember when my brother, and I guarantee you know Lackland Air Force Base.
Yes.
One of the things that we went to visit him for his graduation from the Air Force, they're like, well, there's chaplains available, talking to other airmen that like NCOs and stuff, they were like, yeah, I can guarantee right now you go to that chaplain, somebody finds out about it, you'll never be an officer in the Air Force.
Right. But he's walking around with 2 stents in his heart. So it's not something that they could say, well, it's not legit or it's fake. Right. It's literally, it's done. The doctor actually kind of panicked because he had 90% blockage in both. One was a widowmaker. And so he could have had a heart attack at any time. And we just want the mayor and the city council and the city management to view us, the people who protected that city for almost half our lives, just to look at us the way we look at them. It's not easy to go to work every day. I'm cut out for it. He was cut out for it, but it's not easy to put on a badge and a gun every day. One minute you're talking to a teen who's pressuring his mom because the dad left and kind of running the show and trying to talk him down. And the next minute you're being shot at, and then the next minute an elderly lady's complaining because the neighbor's sprinkler is going on her grass instead of his grass. No, these are real calls. These are calls I went on. And so for somebody to do that, to put on that uniform, how many times have we put on a uniform, Steve? How many times have we put that uniform? Thousands, right? Thousands. We were there for 25 years. For somebody to show up every day and continue to do that and be able to process the emotional and the mental and the spiritual
Are you both honorably discharged, right?
Yes. And for them to not just want to pay him, that's what you were asking. Mm-hmm. For them to just be like, oh, he gave all. He left pieces of himself all over the city. He gave all. Let's take care of this guy. Let's make sure he gets his medical taken care of and his claim process.
They don't look at it with a humble face. They just look at it with some type of resentment.
Okay, when he was diagnosed as permanent, totally disabled, he hasn't worked since. Mm-hmm. So you can't work because you're totally disabled, but they won't pay you. Mm-hmm. So they screw you on both sides. They make sure you don't get paid, and at the same time you can't work because you're totally disabled. You know exactly what I'm sure you've been through it a million times with veterans. Mm-hmm. And so we're here talking about it, but I don't think this is going to help at all. I really don't. But we have to talk about it.
Well.
Again, my frustration comes from knowing what I gave to the city.
You want to talk about all this paperwork or no?
No, this is just some of the bureaucracy that I say we because I'm not the only one that's going through this, and I know that. Recently, the RJ did an article on the workers' comp a few months ago. Couple of months, 2 or 3 months ago, they did a very extensive, and the people were worried about.
It was about a lady who hurt her back.
Right, well, that was one of the stories.
They wouldn't pay her bills, and they wouldn't pay her claim, And they wouldn't deny her because as soon as you deny, then the money has to come from somewhere. And they did an article on it. This is the game, and she can't work.
Okay, so solution focus. What do you want to see happen?
So solution focus is obvious. It's been ruled on. So any concerns or doubts that anyone may have that concerning whether I qualify for these benefits or not, they're gone. You just don't keep moving the goalposts. Pay the benefits that someone's earned. That's it. I don't want extra, but don't tell me that I should get less. Don't do that. But it's been the story of minorities in this country anyway. And, you know, people may say, here he comes throwing the race card. I'm not throwing the race card. But the problem is, why do we always have to fight to be treated fairly? And I feel like right now, I'm fighting a fight to be treated fairly, not to get extra, but because I won't accept less. Am I the bad guy because I won't accept less? That's not right.
Nobody wants to accept less.
Exactly. Or should be forced to accept less.
Yeah.
You're not doing me a favor by saying, well, here's 50% of your benefits. We're going to give you 50% and accept that and you're done. No, it's not right. And my concern is this. Here I am always, even when we fought in the unions and we had to fight, it always felt like we were fighting to be treated fairly. I shouldn't have to ask you a favor and say, can I ask you a favor? Will you help me fight a fight so I can be treated fairly? Is that a favor? Why would I need to ask for a favor to be treated fairly? Most people ask for favors because they want extra. Hey, do me a favor, I want more. I want this and I want that. Yeah. And it's sad and it's
just
frustrating.
Want what you deserve.
Yes.
The bottom line is they don't want to pay and they don't think they should. So until some agency or some politician or some person with power and influence and authority decides to hold them accountable, nothing's going to change. And they don't get it twisted. They got a lot of power and a lot of pull and a lot of money. Their attorneys, they could fight forever. It's constantly paid.
So I got to put this out on the air because this needs to be said. Not everybody at the city of North Las Vegas is against me and against officers. But
who is?
I'm not going to say that person's name because it's only really one person fighting. And I don't want to bring the microscope down on that person. That person may not care, but I'm not going to do that. But I want to be fair to that person and be transparent that we do have a person at least that I'm aware of. It could be more, but I'm aware of one.
Well, I always tell people
that's definitely sees what's right and what's wrong, and trying to make things right. And they see that there's a possibility that taxpayer money is being abused and shouldn't be. So there is a person that I'm aware of. It may, like I keep saying, I may be more, but I'm aware of one for sure that is trying to do the right thing and making sure taxpayer dollars are being spent properly and not being abused. But one person is not enough. And eventually, I'm sure that person's name will come out.
We try to get
but I'm
help.
not sure.
We try to get the person help, but people talk a good game. You
so
know,
one person, Mr. Cardinale.
You know that we can't name names publicly, but he has in this folder a doctor saying he's permanently, totally disabled. In the state of Nevada, you can't question a doctor's opinion. You can go get another doctor, but you can't challenge their opinion. Right. He has a judge's order that says, I order you to pay, and this is my final decision, and explains the NRS. He has the NRS to back him up. He has, there's no argument. There's literally no argument. They're just filing motions for stays and buying time. There is no argument. The NRS says that he gets paid.
So what's the next step then?
They keep saying that we have to let the process. Lawsuit? Well, a federal lawsuit, you know, that's tens of thousands of dollars. We've done that. Him and I sued a chief and a deputy chief. Me and Will did in 2014 or 15 or so for civil rights violations. And they had to settle with us because what we did was we not only sued the city and the police department, we sued them as individuals, and they panicked.
Well, maybe that's what you need to do again.
It was very expensive.
Maybe that's what you need to do again.
If you have tens of thousands of dollars to spend, yeah.
I'm not at that point yet, I'm the kind of person that I'll try certain things, and I'm with you. If I have to, at the end of the day, mortgage my house or, sell my house to fight, then I will.
And that's more damages right there.
Right, but I'm not there yet. I have to get there. It takes me time. He says it all the time. It takes me time, and when I feel the injustice is to a point where, okay, the gloves are off, and whatever it takes, whatever the sacrifices have to be made to fight and win. Yeah. Now it's about winning and bringing attention to it, but I'm just not there yet. You're absolutely right. But you're right. If it becomes tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands, then whatever I have to do to get to that point, whatever the sacrifices I have to make, then I will make those.
Well, I'm just gonna say this, Will, and I'm very sorry to hear about all the stuff that you're going through. And I really appreciate Len for coming on as well and being such a staunch advocate for police officers, because it's not an easy thing to do, and a lot of people, they steer away from the camera, they don't like the scrutiny, whatever the case may be, so they just kind of let this stuff slide, right? But what I wanted to say, first and foremost, that disappoints me, and Steve and I have been talking about this for years, and I'll just keep beating the same drum. The biggest issue that I see is so many voters, if you ask them nationwide, whether they're Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Independent, Independent American Party, whatever, is government too inefficient? Is it too big? Verbatim, almost everyone says yes, right? But then they don't hold elected people accountable. And that's what I'm seeing here in North Las Vegas. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys have a different perception of it.
The citizens are not very political in North Las Vegas.
Right. Well, I mean,
they don't know. You can't get mad about what you don't know.
Right. But that's why I'm saying that it's so great that you two are on here. Like, this is a conversation that, I know this is really, this interview is getting into the weeds and really into the nuts and bolts of stuff. But the average voter needs to understand that, hey, when I call 911, why is there a delay in police response? Well, maybe it has something to do with the fact that there's not enough officers on the street or whatever the case may be, because elected officials in this municipality are not properly taking care of police officers, either current or former police officers.
But then where's all the money? Well, they have more cops, tens of millions a year. They have public safety tax, tens of millions a year. Why are they at 1 officer per 1,000 when the national average is 2.5 officers per 1,000? Right. And Metro's probably close to 2. But why is North Las Vegas at 0.9 or 1 or 1.1 for as long as I've been there? Where's the money? If you're getting a fortune to hire cops, where's the money?
Well, maybe part of it is because they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to deny a legitimate claim.
And he's only one case.
Yeah,
multiply that times dozens, right, and you're in the millions.
Yeah,
so wasted money.
That might be, and this is why I'm trying to say, I know you two gentlemen understand it. I don't understand it as well, but I'm getting up to speed on it. Because Steve has always been very good at exposing me to these things I didn't know was occurring before. But I mean, voters need to understand that this is where all your money's going from.
I don't think there's roofers and carpenters and computer techs and landscape people that work hard every day and pay taxes. I don't think they want their taxes to go to a city that is we fight because we can. We fight because we don't like the police. Or we fight because we don't want to pay them. Yeah. And spending a fortune fighting cases that in Will's case, he has a judge, they said, let the process play out. We did. He won. Then they say, well, let the process play out. We're like, we did. Yeah. And we did. He keep moving the goalposts.
A little bit further.
Let it play out. So the judge's order comes and it's a home run. It's like, this is the law. You lost. You didn't prove your case. Right. Pay him. Final decision. They file a motion for stay. So they file a motion for stay, which gets granted so they can present another argument. But if you know the history of motions for stay, and I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is if you file a motion for stay, usually it's granted if you have new information or something that hasn't been discussed or something you found out, or the case itself changed,
Yeah.
the circumstances, nothing's changed. But they granted the motion to stay through the appeals division anyway.
You ever try the U.S. Attorney's Office?
You know, that would be more criminal, right, than civil? Because right now we're trying civil remedies. But did you know that the Attorney General of Nevada...
Contempt,
well, let me
contempt
finish.
of court is actually criminal.
Well, do you know the Attorney General's office of the state of Nevada, if you look on their website, you know what they investigate? Insurance fraud on workers' comp claims. Let me ask you, if we sent a complaint to the Attorney General of Nevada claiming insurance fraud, let's say, for example, on a workers' comp case, do you think they would investigate it?
Nope. Nope.
Right. So we have all these options.
That's why I went to the U.S. Attorney's Office. I didn't go to the AG's office. That's why I mentioned the U.S. Attorney's Office and not the AG.
But it's listed right on their website. If you believe there's insurance fraud related to your
But
workers'
you know
comp
what? I
case.
would also file a claim with the AG's office so they could reject it, so I could go to the U.S. Attorney's Office. That way I could show that I followed every single protocol. And maybe file a suit against the AG's office for failure
that would get
to comply
into-
with the Nevada revised statutes as well.
Well, that would, I believe, that would be criminal.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would do.
Right now, we're trying civil law remedies, and so
But how long are you going to exhaust that avenue before you go to the next step?
it's Will Crespo's case.
How long are you going to exhaust that avenue before you go to the next step?
Remember what I said before? I'm not there yet, and there.
How long has it been?
It's been over 3 years.
Oh shit! I would have got there in 12 months.
Right, right, exactly. I know, and you're right. And I think a lot of people, other people would have. I agree.
3 years.
Yeah,
Shit, I
you're
don't want to see
right.
my kid
Absolutely
turn
right.
25 before I start getting my money.
There's a reason why.
Right, you're right.
How old's your kid?
She'll be 14 soon.
See?
There's a reason.
She was 11 when this started.
Uh,
Actually, she was 10.
now she in high school. Are you gonna wait till she go to college?
She'll be going to high school shortly after this year. So yeah, she was about 10 or 11 when this started.
There's a
So she
reason.
over. Yeah, you're absolutely. That's a good point. I never did look at it like that. You're right.
There's a reason.
That makes now I'm even more frustrated. To be honest with you, I'm actually pissed right now. Like
Well, you know
said
they
that.
say out of sight, out of mind, right?
Right.
Can I make a comment?
No.
The
Let's not
reason
go
why the
turn-
NRS has a Division of Industrial Relations is supposed to investigate heart and lung claims when they're not, after the appeals filed, within 6 months. There's a reason.
Have they done it?
Well, the paperwork we have says they've investigated now, but that's because the attorneys initiated a complaint for benefit penalties to.
So it took a
division.
complaint for them to do their job. Or
supposed
for them
to do it
follow
within
Nevada
6
revised
months.
Statutes. So how come nobody's filing claims against them for failure to do their job, for violating violating Nevada revised statutes? I mean, you know, we pay all these legislators every single year or every other year to go to Carson City. We hold elections and we put them in office. We put all this money into the politics part of it. Then they go and they make laws, and they are in this building, the state capitol, and they pass laws, and the governor signs off on it, and it doesn't matter. I mean, somebody should be held accountable.
Division of Industrial Relations a few months ago tried to change the regulations on PTSD to make it harder to get PTSD for police
And why is that?
because they don't like paying it. Same reason. They don't think they should pay it. They don't want to pay it. And so,
You know what?
That's
If-
pretty much the answer to everything,
well,
right?
the politicians were made aware of it. I know that for a
If you start
fact.
filing, getting criminal complaints on these agencies, I'll almost guarantee they'll start moving. These civil claims ain't going to do them. If you start doing criminal claims, it's like if you tell a kid, if you're an officer and you pull somebody over and you said, this is your final warning, more than likely they might do it again.
Well, can I
But
ask
if you go and you pull somebody over and you throw those cuffs on them and you toss them in jail, more than likely they won't do it again.
Well, let me ask you a kind of a rhetorical question. If the politicians are aware of the regulation, because I know they are, and they've all been made aware, and the regulation exists, it's in writing, and they're going to make it harder to get PTSD, and they all know about it, and they won't do anything, then why is it on me and you and on Will and on Jim?
Well, you
Why
know
is it
what?
on us
It
if
just-
they all know about it?
It just sounds to me like maybe because of all these agencies that are violating state law and doing contempt of court, maybe you should get the FBI involved.
too political for me.
I mean, because nothing else is working,
They're
right?
political though.
Well, they might be political, but you know, you need to bring it. Have you brought it to their attention?
No.
It's like when I was going after family court. I went right to the FBI because nothing else was working. And I'm the type of guy, I don't like sitting around waiting for results. I just like results. I mean, if you're right, you're right. You're wrong, you're wrong. That's just my philosophy.
I guess that's my problem, that the glass is half full with me.
Well, you know what they say about insanity, right?
Right. No, you're right. You're right.
Do the same thing over and over, expect a different result.
Right.
I like to change it up.
Right.
Sometimes I change it up faster than I should because I don't give the process a chance to play itself out, because I can't wait for the process to play itself out because it's so damn slow.
Right.
How about if it played out and you won?
This is what I tell people. I tell people.
Right.
See, people only move when it's knocking on their door. They don't believe in no preventive maintenance because they say it'll never happen to me. And that's their mindset. It'll never happen to me. But until all of a sudden, now we got to do some shit about it.
And they
right?
don't believe in doing it. They don't believe in doing
All of a
the right
sudden,
thing.
now we need to do something about
Just
it.
because it's the right thing, they're not going to do it.
No.
Just because it's the right thing.
So, gentlemen, have we discussed everything that?
Yeah, we are very, very appreciative that there people exist in the world that are willing to do this and willing to at least try and get it out in the public and get it out so that somebody knows what's going on.
Absolutely, but my opinion, maybe you should look at it differently. Instead of civilly, maybe you should look at it criminally, because here you got a judge's order, and they refuse to follow it. That's contempt of court. You got Nevada revised statutes that they refuse to follow. That's a violation of state law. I mean, am I stupid about this?
You can file a motion to compel. There's no reason you can't file a motion to compel.
Maybe you should
They can
start
deny it.
looking at it criminally and stop looking at it civilly, because you already got the civil part down. You already won, but they're not doing their job, so they're violating laws, and that's criminal, right?
Well, let me ask you this. What if you file a motion to compel in district court and the judge grants it? They still have a right to file an appeal. They still have a right to file a motion for stay. They might, what they're telling him now, because he was successful on the benefit penalties, what they're telling him now is that, we can't assess benefit penalties until the case is adjudicated and it's over with. That is not true, because the accusation is that they refuse to pay. Mm-hmm. So why would you have to wait till the case? But this is now the game they're playing now. No, we can't assess benefit penalties until the case is adjudicated. That makes no sense. If you're saying that the violation is you refused to comply, why would you have to wait till?
Or you have some type of federal lawsuit and you just start naming names instead of naming a department. Name the names. I mean, every time I file a lawsuit, I go with the department and I go with all the names. Because if somebody see their names on there as a defendant in the case, they'll be more than likely to act in your
there'll be
favor.
a lot of defendants in this case.
They'll be more than likely to act, because now they got to get their own attorney to defend themselves. You know.
Well, not if it falls under the city umbrella. If it falls under the city umbrella and they were acting on behalf of this is the game that they played with us in the past. Then the city pays for the defense.
Yeah, but they're going to have to pay. They're going to have to hire a lawyer originally to get their name
Only
dismissed.
if you sue them as an individual.
Well, I would put them all on there. That's just what I would do.
You can do that in U.S. District Court. You can't do it in Clark County. As far as I know, you can't do it in county court. But in federal court, you can sue as individuals.
You could put them in Clark County District Court. You could put their names on there.
You could do that, but they'll file a motion to get.
That's what they'll have to do.
Right.
That's what, and a hearing has to be presented, right? But you guys have anything else you want to add?
No, thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Absolutely.
And hopefully, at the end of the day, when this is done, it'll help not only myself, but any other person or officer or veteran that's in my situation.
I'm going to give you a chance to say that, because Mark is going to zoom in on each of you, and you can have your final statement. Lenny, thank you for coming on the program. Mr. Cardinale, thank you for your years of service with the North Las Vegas Police Department, defending those citizens out there. We really appreciate it. And Mark is going to zoom in on you, and then your final words and any point of contact if you want to give one.
I would like to thank Veterans in Politics and Steve and Jim personally. It's organizations like this that eventually can make a difference, or at least have you believe that we can make a difference. And so I'm indebted to you guys for standing up for what's right, standing up for first responder and military veterans' rights every day. Thank you.
Mr. Crespo, same thing?
Yeah, obviously it took me a little longer than it would have taken you. It's been 3 years. I know I have some good people on my side, especially here in Veterans and Politics with people like yourself and Jim. I know this isn't easy. I know you guys are always having to deal with the tough issues. You guys don't just come out. It's not for entertainment purposes only. It's actually real world stuff. And yeah, it is frustrating. And I want to thank you guys. And I truly believe, and I'm still going to be optimistic, but cautiously optimistic, that eventually the right thing will be done, whether it's because the exposure or someone finally finds it that in their hearts to do the right thing. But either way, hopefully this ends up helping a lot of veterans that may be in my situation, or police officers, first responders in my situation. So thank you again.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Jim, thank you. Folks, that's Leonard Cornelli and Will Crespo, both retired North Las Vegas Police Department, served over 50 years if you combine the two together. And they have to go through this frustrating difficulty of just trying to get their benefits that's rightfully earned. And it's just tiresome the way North Las Vegas municipality treats their men and women in blue. I mean, we've written so many stories about how they treat their men and women in blue. There's got to be another way. If that government is against police officers that are doing their job and that are staying within the guidelines of the law, then we need to get rid of that government that is corrupt, basically. And we need to move people around or get people out or file criminal charges against those folks that are doing it. Again, this show is sponsored by Ron Quince. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jonas for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.